Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, brothers and sisters around the world, wherever you are tuning in and watching this. This is the third time that I have tried to make this video, so I'm hoping on this occasion it will work, which is somewhat ironic, as you'll see, because there are lots of threes in this video. So this video is called The Final Fig Tree Calculation, and I might add to that 3 rapture dates. Pick one if you choose. So I haven't made a video in a couple of months now, and I've had this calculation, as I've mentioned in the community forum. I've had this calculation since 2021, when a lot of people were calculating the fig tree generation, going to May 14, 1948, and then going 7 years back and landing up at 2021. So anyways, around that period of time, I calculated this, and as I've looked at this more and more, it has become more and more profound, because I found other things. And I hope that you will stick with me to the end. I know I might repeat things and put an emphasis on certain things just to sort of get the point across, and to make it very, very clear how this calculation works. So there are dates which I'm going to calculate from on the Hebrew calendar and the Gentile or the Gregorian calendar, and both of these calculations, both of these dates on which they land. So there are 3 dates which we're going to find here, and they are related to the Hebrew calendar and the Gregorian calendar. So please stick with me until the end. It's important that I lay down the foundation of this, and then you will see that I've made it very easy for you guys to go and do the same thing. You can calculate this thing. I wrote a little program, and I can share the link to that program, which is online. You can run it online. It's written in C++, and you can see this all for yourself. And I think this is absolutely fascinating that this very simple calculation lands on these particular dates using the May 14, 1948 to May 14, 2028, which was on that day, the 5th of ER. The 5th of ER is when Israel celebrates their birthday. And so we're going to calculate from the 5th of ER in the year 2028 and May 14, 2028. We're going to calculate using those dates. So the fig tree generation. Okay. And this is the final. I can't come up with anything else but this. And it's pretty awesome where it lands. So please stick with me again, and I hope you have fun. So May 14, 1948 to May 14, 2028, that's the fig tree generation. So that in Hebrew terms is the 5th of ER. So the 5th of ER in 1948 to the 5th of ER in 2028. And that would land, if you deduct the 7 years, to May 14, 2021, or the 5th of ER 2021. But of course, that date has gone. So what happened? And this is the last thing that I can figure out. Okay, so let's go over the main fig tree parable, Matthew 24:32 to 34. I'm sure you all know this. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that the summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Okay? All these things be fulfilled. This is in verse 32 to 34. So what has been fulfilled already? The abomination of desolation in verse 15. The flight into the wilderness of Israel in verse 16. The shortening of the days in verse 22. Okay, and exactly the same thing in Mark 13:28 to 30. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When her branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that the summer is near. So ye in like manner, when ye shall see these things come to pass, know that it is nigh, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Okay, so the generation shall not pass until, again, the abomination of desolation in verse 14, and the flight into the wilderness, never before seen affliction of the world, and the shortening of the days. So the generation of Israel shall not pass until all these things are seen. So this is inclusive of the tribulation, of the abomination of desolation, the flight into the wilderness, and the shortening of the days. So this must encompass, the generation must encompass the tribulation. Okay. The lopping and the pruning of the days. So in Matthew 24:21-22, Jesus says, For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days shall be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. And I've seen a couple of you guys talk about this shortening of the days, but there's only one way that this can happen. The shortening of the days has to be in conformance with God's word. So God will not violate his words. He's given us particular days, and those days are to measure. So therefore, there's only one way that the days can actually be shortened, which we're going to go through. Okay, and then also in Mark 13, much the same thing. For in those days shall be affliction such as was not from the beginning of the creation which God created unto this time, neither shall be. And except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. But for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he hath shortened the days. So the shortening of the days is also alluded to in Romans 9:28. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will the Lord make upon the earth. And also in Zechariah, it says that it shall come to pass that in the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God. So here we're going to look at this idea of thirds all over the book of Revelation, as you'll see, and also thirds. 1/3 is left of Israel. So 2 parts there, in 2/3, 2 parts shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. So does God shorten the days by 1/3 because 2/3 of Israel will be cut off? And does the dividing of the land of Israel by 1/3 cause all of this? So 1/3 in the Bible, which we're going to go through. So the Greek phrase for cut short in this verse, the days shall be cut short, is ekulobothusin. The word ekulobo is a compound verb formed by the prefix ek, meaning out of or from, and kolobu. In this context, ekulobo means to sever or to curtail, which means to cut. To cut. Shorten the days is to cut. And this is a very rarely used word in the Greek. It's not a very frequently or commonly used word. But in Polybius' histories, the English translation is that this was the first encounter in the war and the first trial of their strength, and the Carthaginians came off with a maimed and partial success. So maimed, from kolos, is to dwarf or to lop, to prune as twigs, or wings, to mutilate. So this idea of cutting the days short, the days shall be shortened, is the severing of the days. In other words, they're not going to be 24-hour days. They're going to be short. Literally, the days are going to be shortened. And here we see in the book of Revelation, thirds are all over the book of Revelation. 1/3 is all over the book of Revelation. Third part, the words third part, are used 14 times in 9 verses. And I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, in Revelation chapter 8, 9, and 12, third parts is used consistently. So is that alluding to, is this a hint and a clue as to this calculation, which I'm about to go through? Okay, then talking about the generation, this generation shall not pass. 70 to 80 years. We know in Psalm 90 verses 10, the only psalm attributed to Moses, and that talks about 70 to 80 years. But there's a second witness of that generation, which is in 2 Samuel 19:32. It says, now Barzillai was a very aged man, even 80 years old. So he's 80 years old. And he had provided the king, this is King David, of sustenance while he lay at Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. This is when King David was being, basically when he has conflict with Absalom, and then Barzillai was looking after King David. And the king said to Barzillai, Come now over with me, and I will feed thee with me in Jerusalem. And Barzillai said unto the king, How long have I to live, that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? So David wants him to come with him and celebrate in Jerusalem. And this is also the crossing over. This would mean that they crossed over the Jordan when they did that. That's why it says, Come over with me. And Barzillai says to him, How long have I have to live? He's old. He says, I'm this day 80 years old. He's 80 years old. And can I discern between good and evil? Can thy servant taste what I eat or what I drink? So he's so old, he can't even taste, and he can't enjoy the taste and the flavor of what he eats and drinks. And he says, Can I hear any more the voice of singing men and singing women? So he's saying he's too old for celebrating. That's what he's saying, is that I'm ready to die. And he says, Wherefore then should thy servant be yet a burden unto my lord the king? So he wants to stay where he is, and he says to David that he should go and celebrate and have a good time, but he's not coming. He's too old for that business. So this is a second witness. He's ready to die. He's ready to go. And this is the generation, 70 to 80 years. Psalm 90 verses 10. Okay. And then cosmic catastrophe. All over the Bible, we see this cosmic catastrophe happening in the end, or at the end, at the time of the end. Isaiah 24 is the mini apocalypse. Chapter 24, Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And in Isaiah 24, 19, the earth is utterly broken down, the earth is clean dissolved, the earth is moved exceedingly, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. You can imagine it, just not as a perfect sort of gyroscope at the moment, but absolutely out of kilter and moving around like a drunkard, like a drunk walking in the street. And shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high. Those are the stars of heaven that shall fall like untimely figs. He shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. So the high ones that are on high, which are not from our realm, they're not from this dimension, they're getting kicked out. The stars of heaven shall fall, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. Both them and the kings of the earth are getting punished on the earth. So then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. Hallelujah. Okay, so cosmic catastrophe in Isaiah chapter 13. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel, with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. I want you to just remember that, what this says here. In the day of the Lord, when the day of the Lord comes, the stars of heaven and the constellations shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. So no stars and no constellations can be seen in the day of the Lord. The sun is going to be darkened, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Okay. And some more cosmic catastrophe in Zephaniah. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hasteth greatly, even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble, a day of distress, a day of wasteness, a day of desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. And in Joel 2, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and strong there hath never been the like, there shall never be more after it, even unto many generations. So that is the horseman of the Revelation chapter 9, coming out of the bottomless pit, and all the things that are associated with the judgment. Okay, so what I'm just trying to show you guys is the cosmic catastrophe. Something's happened to the cosmos. Something has happened to the constellations, to the sun, to the moon. Something's happened to the daily going forth of the general routine of the sun rising and the moon being seen, which people just take completely for granted right now. They just expect it to happen. And so we see the modification of daytime, again, along this idea of the shortening of the days. We see the modification of daytime in the Bible that's happened already, except then the days were lengthened. And this is obviously when Joshua's long day, when he was battling as he comes in with the Israelites. And it says that so stood the sun still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about the whole day. So we see God has elongated the day with Joshua's long day. And then it says, and there was no day like that before it or after it. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. And then we see in Matthew 24, where it says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, again, there shall no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So it's kind of the same there. Verse 14 says, and there was no day like that before it or after it. And then in Matthew 24 says, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And I suggest that the days being shortened is the opposite of what God does when the Joshua goes into Israel and conquers all of the enemies which had laid down their tracts in Israel and all the Canaanites. So, shortening the days. The final fig tree calculation. Okay, so this is with regards to these calculations, and what I'm suggesting to you guys is that this must not be contrived, and it must be very simple. It's a very simple calculation. It's not trying to shoehorn anything in. It must not violate the number of days that God has stipulated in his word, as these will be used to count up to his return in tribulation. This is, I think, one of the most fundamental points is that God has given us the number of days to count in different places. So he's given us 2,300 days in Daniel 8:14. This number of days is actually from when the sacrifice begins. So they have built the temple and the sacrifice commences. And then from the moment the sacrifice commences until the temple is cleansed is 2,300 days. So we're not going to use this calculation. We're going to use the first half and the second half of the tribulation. There's a couple of different days, and we're going to use them all in combination with each other. So 1,290 days in Daniel 12:11, 1,335 days in Daniel 12:12, and then 1,260 days in Revelation 11:3 and in Revelation 12:6. So the number of days that we have to play with here are three different numbers. So 1,290, 1,335, and then 1,260. So we're going to make the calculations with a medley of those. We're going to mix them together and say, okay, well, if it was 1,335 and 1,260, or maybe it's 1,290 plus 1,260, or 1,260 plus 1,260. So we can mix and match them around and see what we come up with. Okay, it must be within the fig tree generation of May 14, 1948 to May 14, 2028, 70 to 80 years as per Psalm 90 verses 10, or the fifth of ER. So the Hebrew or the Gregorian. We're going to do them both. And we're going to work backwards. So we're going to work from the end. And I just like these verses because they talk about working from the end of a thing. So in Isaiah 46:10, it says, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Ecclesiastes 7:8 says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. And then in Job 8:7, it says, though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase. And then at the end of Job, it says, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning. Okay? So calculate the days being shortened. This is the fundamental verse which this whole presentation is based off of. Revelation 8:12. This is where, if this is correct, then this is where it tells us to calculate this calculation. So it says, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. So the day not shining for a third part, and the night likewise, means that the day, as in the day and the night, which encompasses day and night, sunshine and the lack of sunshine, will be 1/3 shorter. So the day shone not for a third part, and the night likewise, which means 1/3 of the day in total is reduced. So the days are shortened, which means that the day becomes a 16-hour day as opposed to a 24-hour day. And that is the basis of the calculations which I'm going to do. Very simple. I'm just going to say, what if the days were not 24-hour days? What if the days were just 16-hour days? And then work backwards from May 14, 2028 and the 5th of ER in 2028, working backwards, considering that the days were 16-hour days. So obviously compressing that time into compressing those 24-hour days into 16-hour days means that we can still fall within the fig tree generation, because the time has been compressed as such by 1/3. And this only lands on this period which is coming up, this festive period which is coming up. This is the only time that this can happen. This is the only way that this maths can land on these days, but they land on the days perfectly, absolutely perfectly. Okay. So working from the date May 14, 2028 and the 5th of ER, let's calculate the number of days being 1/3 shorter in the tribulation based on the number of days given to us in the book of Revelation and in the book of Daniel. We come to 3 potential rapture dates. Hallelujah. Okay, brothers and sisters, so there are 3 things involved here. There's this document here, which is the final fig tree calculation. I'll put this Google document link in the description of the video, and in here it's got a link to the PowerPoint presentation, which you just saw, and then it's got a link to the spreadsheet with date calculations. So this is the spreadsheet with the date calculations, and this is a combination of those days which we went over in Daniel and Revelation, the three different combinations: 1290, 1335, and 1260 in Revelation is used twice. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet which shows the combination of these dates together, which I'm going to go through with you. Then it's just a small description of the program which I wrote, which is in C++. You don't really have to know this, but there's a link here which then takes you to this online C++ program, so you can run this yourself. You can validate this yourself, and you can see that these dates land perfectly on the Hebrew and Gregorian dates in 2023. So I'm going to go through this, and I hope that I will come across as clearly as possible. Okay, so again, this is the document which details everything, and it's got all the links in this Google Doc. And then what we do is we go to the spreadsheet, and we look at this, and you can see here I've got the dates. Okay, just to mention them again, not the top one, we don't use that one, so I think we can just gray that one out. Let's just gray that one out. So we don't typically use that one. We're going to use these ones because these are the ones that cut the tribulation in half, and it's a mystery why there's slightly different dates, but God loves giving us a mystery, so we're going to figure it out one day, and he's certainly going to tell us. So the combination of these days over here at the top here, which I've listed, is detailed below. So this is the Gregorian section under this orange here, and then this is the Hebrew section under the blue. So we're going to combine Revelation 11:3 and Revelation 12:6, which is 1260 plus 1260, which is 2520 24-hour days. Okay, 24-hour days. And so if those days were shortened, that would be 1680 24-hour days. Okay, so again, we're taking the amount of time in one day, 24 hours, and compressing it by 1/3. So these are 16-hour days. So in order to have 2,520 16-hour days, you would need 1,680 24-hour days. Okay, and that's what this calculates for you. So we're going to go here. We're going to run this program. Again, the link is I'll put it in the description of the video, but it's also in that Google Doc. So we're going to run this program, and then it's going to ask us, okay, work backwards, enter the total number of days to deduct. Okay, so these are 24-hour days. Enter the total number of days. So we're going to put in 2,520 days. So 2,520 days. Okay. Now it says the number of hours in 2,520 24-hour days is 60,000 hours. The number of hours in 2,520 16-hour days is 40,320 hours. So it's just giving you the breakdown of what that would calculate to. Okay, so the calculate is the calculation is that 2,520 16-hour days is 1,680 1,680 normal 24-hour days. So again, going back to here, 1,260 plus 1,260, that's using the two numbers in the book of Revelation, comes up to 2,520 days. But if those were 16-hour days, that would be 1,680 24-hour days. So now we say, okay, we're going to put that number in. Oh, I've got to run it again because it's died. Okay, just quickly, and I'll do it again because I guess repeating it is probably a good idea. So enter the number of days to deduct number of 24-hour days, 2,520 24-hour days. Okay, 2,520 16-hour days would be 1,680 normal days. So enter the date to deduct from, okay, which is going to be the year 2028, and the month is going to be the 5th month, which is May, and the date is going to be the 14th. So from the 14th of May 2028, we're going to deduct 1,680 days. 1,680 days. 1,680 24-hour days, because in that 1,680 24-hour days would give us 2,520 16-hour days. So the days have been cut short by 1/3. What day does it land on? Okay, it lands on the 8th of October 2023. Okay, the 8th of October 2023 is Shemini Atzeret. Okay, it lands perfectly on Shemini Atzeret, calculating the number of days being compressed by 1/3, going from May 14, 2028, going backwards 1,680 days, lands exactly on Shemini Atzeret. Okay, now let's so there's your first rapture day. There's the first rapture date. Let's calculate the next one. Revelation chapter 12:6 plus Daniel 12:11, that's 1,260 plus 1,290, which is 2,550 days. Let's start the program again. We're going to run it again. 2,550 days. 2,550 days, because that's the that is the 1,260 plus 1,290, right? Last calculation we did was 1,260 plus 1,260. Now we're doing 1,260 plus 1,290, which is 2,550. Okay, that would be 2,550 16-hour days would be 1,700 normal days. So we do it again. Let's go back. Let's go from 2028 and the 5th month, May 14, 2028. Okay, and we're going to calculate 1,700 days. That lands on the 18th of September 2023. Okay, the 18th of September 2023 is Rosh Hashanah. I'm not making this up. This is calculating exactly the number of days. The Bible says that the days will be shortened by 1/3. This is not contrived. This is not shoehorning anything in. This is merely just compressing the number of 24-hour days to 16-hour days, going to May 14, 2028 and working backwards, and it lands exactly on Shemini Atzeret if we calculate Revelation 11:3 and 11 and Revelation 12:6, which is 1,260 plus 1,260. Or it lands exactly on Rosh Hashanah if we calculate 1,260 plus 1,290, which is the combination of Revelation 12:6 or 11:3 and Daniel 12:11. My friends, I don't know what to say about this. All I know is that it's profound. It is profound. All I'm doing is compressing the days to 16-hour days, using those number of days and working backwards, the equivalent of 24-hour days. Okay, so now, naturally, what you say, well, hang on, are we working off the Gregorian calendar or are we working off the Hebrew calendar? Look what happens when we work off the Hebrew calendar. Okay, so these other dates here, they land on August the 19th and July the 30th if you combine these other dates, which I'm not going to go through now because those are not, they don't land on the feast days of the Lord. But if you want to check those out, okay? Now, moving on to the Hebrew calendar, the 5th of ER. Let's say we're going to go from the 5th of ER, 5788, which is the 5th of ER in 2028. We're going to use the Hebrew date now in 2028. Combining Revelation 11:3 and Revelation 12:6, which are the 1,260 and the 1,260 days. So that is 2,520. But we're not going to do it from May 14, 2028. We're going to do it, sorry, this should be May the 1st. I'm sorry, I'm going to fix that right now. This should be May the 1st. So in 2028, the 5th of ER, which is going to be Israel's birthday, so on the Hebrew calendar, so the 14th of May is obviously the Gregorian calendar. We're going to do this from the Hebrew calendar. So we have two witnesses already. Two witnesses, Shemini Atzeret and Rosh Hashanah. Now let's calculate from the 1st of May 2028, which will be the 5th of ER. Okay, let's go and start it again. We're going to do again the same number of days as the first one, which was 2,520. So 2,520 24-hour days. Okay, that gives us again 1,680 24-hour days, which is the equivalent of 2,520 16-hour days. I hope my repetition is going to make this clear. So we're going to go this time. We're going to go from 2028, and we're going to go from the 5th, which is the 5th month, but we're going to go from the 1st. Because in 2028, the 5th of ER, which is Israel's birthday on the Hebrew calendar, is on the 1st of May instead of the 14th of May, which is the Gregorian. Okay, so we're going to put in that date, the 5th of ER, 2028. Oh, sorry, I didn't do it quick enough. Okay, let's do it again. Sorry. Okay, 2,520. Okay, and we're going to go from 2028 on the 5th, which is May, the 5th month, and the 1st of that. So this is 5th of ER 2028, and we're going to deduct 1,680 days. That lands on the 25th of September 2023. Okay, so going back to the spreadsheet, the 25th of September 2023 is Yom Kippur. So my friends, if this calculation is right, and these deducting 1/3 of the day, which is 8 hours from each day, which means that the days in the tribulation will be 16-hour days. That means that we can take the amount of time the tribulation in terms of hours itself, because the sun is rising and falling quicker because the sun shone not for a third part, and the night likewise. So it's going to be rising and falling quicker. So 16-hour days, but they're still going to have the ability to count the number of days, because you count the number of days by virtue of the sun rising and falling. So this is the calculation that I wanted to share with you guys. This is profound. Maybe it's a monumental coincidence that calculating from the Hebrew and the Gregorian dates and compressing the amount of days, or should I say the number of hours in each day, and compressing the amount of time in total down by 1/3, lands us exactly on, depending on which combination you use here, lands us on exactly on the feast days of the Lord, using the Hebrew and the Gregorian calendar. So you've got multiple witnesses here, and that's the calculation. So I will share all of this stuff. I just wanted to cover just one more thing, was this NASA have done these incredible images where it shows the 2023 annular solar eclipse and the 2024 solar eclipse. Now remember, we had the Great American Eclipse, which was in 2017, just about a month before the Revelation chapter 12 sign. Remember, we had that, and we were like, it was so incredible. But in actual fact, what people were doing was combining 2017 with the 2024 solar eclipse. But these two eclipses actually go together, and you can see that NASA has done this incredible image where it shows you exactly where it's going to be, and it's like it's crossing over just here by Houston, Texas. So I'll put this in the description of the video as well. They've got all these different kinds of images here to show you where this is taking place, but they have combined these. Now that looks like a crosshairs to me, and also bear in mind that this annular solar eclipse, so the annular solar eclipse, this is the ring of fire. This is the first one. The ring of fire is the first one. This is the one. This is taking place 1 week after Shemini Atzeret. So the date is on October the 14th. So the Shemini Atzeret, if you go back to here, is happening on October the 8th. So this is 1 week afterwards. This is happening 1 week afterwards. This is the ring of fire. This is the one that's happening first. Now, if we have a look in the King James Version of the Bible and we look in the Gospels, how many times did Jesus mention moon? He mentions it 3 times. So 3 witnesses, we're talking about 1/3 here. And only on one occasion in Luke 21:25, he says, "And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring." And then in Matthew 24 and Matthew 13, it says, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light. The stars of heaven shall be the stars of heaven shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken." Sorry, that's the rest of Matthew 24. It's important to look at the whole verse, because this goes back. Remember, I said in Isaiah where it says the sun, the constellations shall not shine forth their light in the great and dreadful day of the Lord. The sun shall be confounded, and the moon. And then it talks about the host of the high ones that are on high. And then it talks here about Matthew 24:29, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, the hosts of the high ones that are on high, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken." Also in Mark 13, "But in those days after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light." Now, I know that this can be contentious, but is what it's saying here, the word that is used here for after is meta. Meta. Okay? And meta, this very same word can be with. Okay? In fact, it's used 345 times. It says with. Instead of after, it says with. So, is it possible that this is saying immediately with the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, because it's the tribulation. And then also, but in those days, with the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened. In other words, or immediately after the tribulation, but in those days after that tribulation, immediately, in other words, as soon as tribulation began, immediately at the tribulation, with the tribulation, immediately after the tribulation, in other words, after tribulation begins, immediately after the tribulation of those days. In other words, the tribulation of those days is talking about the tribulation, but immediately after the tribulation, in other words, as it begins, immediately after the tribulation or with the tribulation. then that would suggest that this is potentially this is that what is being spoken about, and these are the ones being combined. So we've had the 2017 Great American Eclipse. That's the sign. So that's the sign, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars. That's the one there. And then you've got these two here, pointing to that eclipse, which is the sun. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be dark and the moon shall not give her light. But in those days after that tribulation, it's not possible that happens after the tribulation, because it says in Isaiah, the moon in the day of the Lord, it's going to be dark and gloomy. It's going to be, it's going to be a dark and dreadful day. The sun shall be confounded, the moon shall not shine forth her light, the great and terrible day of the Lord. It can't be afterwards, unless it's talking about immediately afterwards, like as the tribulation begins immediately. Lending to this idea of this taking place at or with the tribulation, or at the same time, immediately at the tribulation. This is the Coverdale Bible, 1535. And if we compare what it says here to, you've got Mark 13:24, it says, but at the same time after this trouble, the sun and moon shall lose their light. So, but at the same time after this trouble. And then if we have a look at the other one, Matthew 24:29 in the Coverdale Bible, immediately after the trouble of the same time shall the sun and moon lose their light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall move. Immediately after the trouble of the same time. So immediately after the trouble of the same time. So the tribulation, immediately with the tribulation, or at the tribulation, or at the beginning of the tribulation, immediately after the trouble at the same time. You see what I'm trying to get at, guys? I hope I'm making this idea clear. Is potentially, maybe that's what this is pointing to. This is that sign, no, this is not the sign, because we'll be gone by this. We'll be gone. And it's interesting that the first one is the ring of fire. The first one is an annular, which you see the ring of the sun around. So that's the ring of fire. And the ring of fire, I believe, is the ring of the earthly ring of fire. All those volcanoes are going to go off. And this one is totally dark. This one's totally dark. So this one completely darkens out. Completely darkens out the sun. So I think that's interesting as well. Okay, brothers and sisters, last but not least is just where these eclipses are actually taking place. Here we can see this is in Virgo. This is the one that's just coming up now. And of course, I don't need to tell you about the Revelation chapter 12 sign and how this is pretty interesting, happening right here in Virgo at Spica 1 week after Shemini Atzeret. So if I was to choose one of the days that I've mentioned, I would say Shemini Atzeret and the 8th day, because it is 1 week before this eclipse which is happening. So this eclipse is the first one, which is October. It's happening in the constellation of Virgo, Revelation chapter 12 sign, and everything that goes along with that, the man-child, the woman giving birth, and everything. This is a perfect place for it to be occurring. So I'm very, very excited for this period which is coming up. And then just to show you, the next one is happening, solar eclipse. So this is the one that is happening on the 8th of April. This is this one, which is a total solar eclipse. So this is the one going from bottom left to top right. So a very, very interesting place. Again, this is in the fish in Pisces going backwards. The fish which is going it's going horizontal. This is Israel, and the church is the one going upwards. According to E.W. Ballinger, the church has a heavenly calling and Israel has an earthly calling. So very, very interesting place where this is happening, these solar eclipses. This is a very exciting time coming up, brothers and sisters. I hope that I hope that I explained these calculations clearly. I really wanted to make sure that that I made it clear exactly how this works and how to calculate it. Please do come and test this out for yourself, or if you have another way you want to work it out. I just didn't want to have to continually, go to from one day and then have to calculate the whole thing again. So I decided to write this program that does it all for me very quickly, and then I thought that you guys could have the benefit of running it as well. So the program is online, and you can run it yourself. And again, the document here, the final fig tree calculation, you can read this and how I put this together. There's also a work forwards day where you can work out going forwards if the number of days were 16-hour days, where you would land up. I don't know, maybe somebody in the tribulation will find these calculations. Who knows if it all works out? Then they can use these calculations to figure out going forwards what the day would be. But anyways, I really hope that you enjoyed that. I apologize for not making more videos. I am continuing to preach the gospel on the weekends, and notwithstanding everything else which is going on in the world, what's going on with the Wagner group in Russia, with the business with Iran and the hypersonic weapons, and Israel have just said that they can shoot them down now. They can shoot hypersonic weapons down, and all the business with the settlers and the things which are going on there, they're rising up, and the settlers are rising up. I do intend to do more videos more often going forwards, God willing, but I'm watching and waiting every single day. Please don't think that that because I'm not making videos, I'm not watching anymore. That couldn't be further from the truth. I like studying, reading the Word, and I'm very very excited for the coming of the Lord. I know that it's coming. I know that it's coming. So I really hope that you enjoy this video. I love you very much, and I'll see you in the sky.